All right, so we've been looking forward to doing this. We've been talking a lot about doing just midweek reflections for our Heartway family, and we figured during this time it would be good to kind of talk about how we've been processing through this as a couple and individually. I don't know if you want to share some words on that.
Yeah, so for me, as many of you know, I'm a wedding photographer. So for lots of business owners, really right now is a really crazy and hard time just because a lot of our bookings are being postponed, a lot of my weddings are being postponed, a lot of my events are being canceled. So, a lot of my finances are kind of up in the air and like in the unknown for like many other business owners. So when this originally started, I became very concerned and I was dealing with a lot of fear, anxiety, stress, just really with the all of the unknowns. I was just super stressed and fearful of what was going to happen until finally I decided to just kind of rest, come into terms with it, release my control of it, and just find some peace, really, because that's truly, I feel like, the only and best thing that we can do right now, especially for myself and my mental state of being. So for me, really, I just had to release the control. And I recognized that me feeling all of those emotions was just because I was trying to control the situation. Because my personality is very controlling and I like to feel safe. So my finances, I need to be secure and safe with that. When it comes down to, having enough work, I find a lot of my worth in my work, unfortunately. So like me not having work for me has been really tough, and that also stems from fear. So for me, I have been able to luckily find a place of peace and really hear God's voice through this time. And the only way I have been able to hear God's voice is by pausing, slowing down, and resting. My theme right now, I feel like during this time, is to do less and be more. So for me, really, I have just been focusing on just being myself. Who am I without my work? Who am I when I'm not attached to anything? And I'm love, I'm peace. And this is really where I feel like God is speaking to me the most, where I am just silent and I'm hearing that inner guide that I have within me, that we all have within us. But really, we can only hear that guide when we're calm, silent, quiet, without all of the extra noise and craziness happening.
Yeah, I've been having multiple conversations with people who, one couple was telling me that 40% of the funds they had stored up for their kids for college, they've had to dip into in order to just make ends meet during this time.
Yeah.
I was talking to another couple who for 40 years has been investing in the stock market, banking on that for their retirement, and that time is coming up, and now everything explodes, and so of course they're worried and they don't know what to do. And for me personally, it's fascinating because at this age, at least my dad, the voice of wisdom in my life, has always been telling me, hey, make sure you save money and plan for your retirement. But from what I'm seeing, it's important to recognize that we can't find security in any of those things. And it's good to plan ahead, but never to think that we will find assurance and security in all of that stuff. Exactly. Because it could be taken from you in a moment. And I'm reminded of what Jesus said when he said, don't store treasures on earth where they can rust and be taken away, but store your treasures in heaven. And for me, what that means is make your true treasure peace of mind, because that is the one thing that nobody can take away from you. And we live in a very materialistic culture where possessions, money is what matters more than anything. This time is reminding me that we need to focus on what's really and truly essential. I think a lot of us, we fear letting go of our luxury. We fear letting go of the excess. And we don't find contentment with little things. In the New Testament, it even says, we brought nothing into this world and we can't take anything out of it. So if we have food, if we have clothing, that's enough for us. So there's like a simplicity that I feel like I've been coming back to. I was watching a couple of weeks ago with a friend of mine, the Minimalist documentary, or I don't know if it was a documentary or just a show on YouTube that my friend was showing me, but minimalists obviously are people who have very minimal things. And I was telling my friend, hey, like this way of living, as much as I would like that to be the case with my closet, you know, I hoard a lot of things. But in reality, this is what I'm trying to do with my mind.
Yeah.
I want to be a minimalist when it comes to what's happening in my mind, releasing my cares into the hands of God so that I can be present to what is and enjoy this moment right here. So, how are you being intentional about utilizing this time for that purpose?
So for me, like I said, I have the way that God has been speaking through me during this time is to rest, but be intentional about my rest. You know, also I need to be productive, of course, and get things done, but because my life is constantly going, and I'm busy here doing this, doing that, from one thing to the other, jumping here and there, I'm never able to sit, reflect, rest. So I feel like during this time, this is a time where God is telling me to just be present, listen to my emotions, listen to my inner guide that I was saying, you know, that inner compass. And your inner compass is always going to tell you what to do, where to go, but you have to be, you know, you have to rest, and you have to be in that place of silence that we fear. Because I actually recognize that I like to keep myself busy so that I don't have to deal with my emotions. And I don't have to listen to them. So when I'm busy and I'm going, then I can just shove them down and not have to pay attention to them, you know? So during this time, honestly, all the time, I think it's so important to be intentional about everything that you do. I know there's a lot of people right now who are working still their normal job from home, and their schedule's still crazy. But my advice right now would be to always do everything with intention, you know, with an intentional heart. Because when you're intentional, what you're doing today is going to set you up for tomorrow and the day after that. But let's start today in this very present moment. Being in this present moment and intentional about it is everything, really.
There's this wonderful Zen proverb that says, don't just do something, sit there. And if you think about it, we're always telling people the opposite of that, right? So they're doing a play on words. But mostly what we hear is, don't just sit there, do something.
Yeah.
But I like when you turn it around, because sometimes we need to stop doing and start being. It reminds me of a quote from one of the Desert Fathers. A young monk went up to one of the Desert Fathers and said, give me a word of wisdom. Give me a word of truth. And the monk responded by saying, go to your cell, and your cell will teach you everything. And the word cell just means like your personal room. So when you lived in a monastery, just go to your own personal space. The whole idea is this is an invitation for us to explore our inner landscape. You know, to get curious about what's happening within us. That's what all of this is an opportunity for right now. And I love Rumi, the great Sufi poet, when he talks about the mind as like a guest house. And he says every day there's a new arrival. Joy, peace, sadness, happiness, anger, frustration. He said, when a guest arrives, welcome it, embrace it. And then he goes as far as saying, be grateful for it, because those emotions have been sent to you as a guide from beyond. Because all of our emotions are leading us to a greater understanding of ourselves. So that as we process through these things and release more and more into the hands of God, we can step into our deepest self, our truest self, our highest self.
Lead us to fulfillment.
Absolutely.
The truest fulfillment. The external won't lead us to.
Yes. Our true treasure is the Spirit of God within us. Our true treasure is peace of mind. There's another quick little story about a young man who asked his teacher how he can deal with all of his thoughts that were bombarding him, thoughts of anger and stress and frustration. And the teacher responded by saying, can an axe harm anyone or do anything if someone doesn't pick it up to use it? And so he says, in the same way, when those thoughts come, don't extend your hand to grab them, and they will do no harm to you. You know, because sometimes we take these thoughts that are going around in our head and we identify with them. You know, we become the emotion instead of allowing the emotion, making space for the emotion and getting inquisitive about it. So that's important. We can't stop thoughts from coming into our mind, but we can always question them when they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, for me in this season, it's been really important to just be aware of those thoughts. And like you said, not identify with them, but just be aware of them. Let them be, little reminders of what needs to be fixed on my inside for me to be in alignment with God.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's really what they are. They're indicators as to what we need to fix.
Mm-hmm.
How we can get better
Mm-hmm.
on the inside.
Right.
Because if we can be happy on the inside, we can be happy with all of the external.
Absolutely. So a good question to ask when you're bringing a sense of curiosity and questioning to your thoughts is this thought true? Is it really true? And I would encourage people to sit with that question, because a lot of what we're stressing over is projections of the future that we really don't know whether they are true or not. And then the other question to ask is, when I believe this thought, how does that affect the way I act, the way I live, the way I treat other people, the way I treat myself? Because Jesus said, you'll know those who follow me by the fruit that they bear in their life. So when I'm believing a certain thought, when I'm telling myself a certain story, the question is this producing life?
Yeah.
Is this producing love? Is this producing peace within me? If it's not, then that means I'm believing a thought that is not true.
Yeah.
So you mentioned the word alignment, and I think we can kind of wrap up with this. Part of what is so important for us to learn how to align is our mind, our body, and our soul.
Yep.
Because all three of those areas are connected.
Yeah. They're all one.
And we don't recognize how those things are connected. Some people may just be stressed and anxious and freaking out because their body needs to move a little bit.
Yes. Yes.
And that energy is just all pent up within you.
What people don't realize is that what you do with one affects the other. I actually recognize that within myself. That's why I exercise daily, because I know that my body needs to move and exercise for my mental state of being. If I'm not moving and exercising, then I am stressed and anxious, and I'm not able to release that energy, kind of like you said. For me, that's important. And then when it comes down to the spiritual side, my soul, when I don't meditate, I recognize that, it affects every other part of my life. So how can people who don't know where to start on balancing those three, where can they start?
Well, what I believe is what the body needs is movement, what the mind needs is stillness, and what the soul needs is love.
I love that.
And so every day, how can I bring a little movement to my body? Maybe you may not be somebody who works out a lot and who can do all these push-up challenges you're getting tagged in. But maybe it's just going out for a walk every day, or taking a moment to stretch. Whatever it is that can just get your body looser.
Yes.
When it comes to your mind, okay? Meditation is to the mind what showering is to the body. It's like a cleansing. It's a way for you to reset. So practicing meditation is huge.
Yeah.
And then for the soul, love. And what I want to encourage people to focus on right now is, how can you receive love? What are the ways that God is seeking to communicate the divine love into your heart that you may be closed off to, that you may be too distracted to notice? Let God love you through this. Receive that love. Root and ground yourself in that love, and then allow yourself out of that wholeness to bring that same healing and love into the lives of other people.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. Something that I want to put in there before we wrap up, is something that came to me today, is that we are all divine creators. We are all, because I'm a creative, so I like to see everything as creativity. We all have the capacity within us to create our reality and, just create intentional moments. So I think that's why we exist too, as a community, spread that love and to spread where messages like this, where we're reminding you to be intentional with your time,
Absolutely.
to be intentional with everything that you do, and most of all, love yourself.
Yeah, what I've been telling people is, for me, it's kind of business as usual, because I feel like for those of us who are on the spiritual path, everything, every circumstance, every situation is simply an opportunity for us to expand our awareness of ourselves and our awareness of God's presence in our lives. And if that's the case, then beneath the surface, beneath the appearance of things, we can always see that which is good.
Yeah.
This is good for me.
Yes.
Because through this, I am able to grow.
Yeah.
And through this, I am able to expand. And if that's the case, how can we lose? And what is there to be afraid of?
Yeah.
When your goal is growth, there's no such thing as failure. When your goal in life is expansion, there's nothing that can get in the way of that happening. In fact, everything serves that purpose.
Yeah.
Which means now we can turn everything upside down.
I've been reading articles this week just about how the world is healing itself. And I like to look at that as a symbol as to what can happen on our insides. I read that the canals in Italy have never been clearer. That you can hear the birds chirping in Wuhan just because all of the noise has calmed down. So for me, I like to think of that the same thing as that can happen in my inside. What happens when I release all of the noise and I just rest in God's presence? I can hear all of the beautiful things. I can see all of the beautiful things. I can just be one with God and myself.
Don't just do something. Sit there.
I love that.
This has been fun.
Yes.
This is the first of hopefully many.
Yes.
We want to come and bring these midweek reflections to you, and a couple of reminders. This Sunday we're going to have our second Heartway at Home experience at 11:30 a.m. We want to encourage all of you to go to our YouTube channel or heartwaychurch.com, and we're working on finding a way to stream this on Facebook and Instagram. But go to YouTube because we're all chatting there during
and thank you to those of you who have been in touch and connected with us. We love you.
Yeah. This family continues to be family even through all of this.
Yes.
And so looking forward to connecting.
And then we have La Mesa also.
Yeah, exactly.
This coming Sunday.
Thanks for the reminder.
At what time is it again?
3 o'clock.
3 o'clock.
We're going to do it through Zoom. Up to 100 people can be on the video call.
Yeah, we're excited about this.
Everyone's going to be on the screen, on video. You bring your own meal to La Mesa, and we've got a great thing planned.
Yeah, we're going to break some bread too.
Yep, we're just going to hang out, catch up, do some communion. I'll share a quick word, and we'll give an opportunity for people to share about just kind of what God is doing in their life right now. So,
and then April 2nd, we're going to have a workshop on Centering Prayer.
My friend Richard Lewis, silenceteaches.com. Silenceteaches.com. He's going to be with us, and he's going to help us expand that practice. So
super excited.
All right.
Thank you so much for all of you for tuning in today.
Yeah.
Make sure you follow us on all social media platforms. We are so thankful for each and every one of you. We love you.
See ya.